your life is on the line and you know that you're on an oxygen tank and they're going to put you on your head, see what you do. Because the bottom line is that me, I'm one person. I can never miss.
Guy's not being loyal to you. How could you be loyal to him?
Yeah.
And whether you're your father or not. So, you know, but it's always been hard because it was my father.
The word came down, this guy had to go. You know, we didn't know nothing about him until the last minute. And I liked him. I liked Billy. He was a nice guy, but...
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today got a really good episode for you guys. Larry Rolla. Shout out to Larry Rolla. We did an incredible interview. Figured I'd come on here and talk for a little bit before I dropped the interview because it was that good. You guys really need to pay attention to this story. It has to do with the legacy of James Gandolfini, James Gandolfini's father, and it's pretty crazy. When you guys hear the story, you'll be like, wow. Joe Blunts, what's up, man? Jonathan, how are you? Salvatore, what's going on? Good morning, everybody. So there's a bunch of craziness going on, as usual. What day is there not craziness going on? So one of the cases I want to talk about real quick is the landlord who killed his own tenants. Like, what is going on in the world? I got a video for you guys. Let's take a look.
That's the question tonight in one horrified neighborhood in Queens. Why would a landlord suddenly stab two tenants and his own girlfriend to death and then just calmly turn himself into cops? Eyewitness News reporter Jim Dolan in St. Albans tonight.
I got an answer for that question that she just asked. Paulie, what's up, man? So I have the answer for that question. Why would he do that? Why would he stab his tenants and his girlfriend? Why? Probably because he wasn't getting paid from the tenants. He probably figured, I'm going to be homeless. And, you know, your life's over pretty much. I've been in that hopeless situation before, and it's not a good place to be. I'm going to start telling some of my own personal stories on how I got sober and some of the struggles I dealt with along the way. And you guys are going to love those stories. They're pretty crazy. And they don't always put me in a good light at all, but I don't care. I'm gonna speak truth and the facts, and I don't care what people's opinions are. So let's get back to the video.
With the search for answers.
In St. Albans, the early holiday lights on some homes belie the tragedy that unfolded this morning just down the block, in a home as quiet as the rest of the neighborhood.
You would hardly even hear a peep from anybody.
And no one heard anything this morning until the owner of this home, 54-year-old David Daniel, calmly walked into the 113th precinct.
A 54-year-old male walked into the 113th precinct, stating to uniformed police officers that he was having issues with his tenants. The officer inquired further, and the male stated that he did something bad.
Something bad, something horrifying. He told police that he had murdered his girlfriend in an upstairs bedroom and a man and a woman who were both tenants in the basement, stabbing all three to death. He told police there was a year-long rent dispute with the couple downstairs.
Roscoe, what's up?
It's really upsetting because you don't want anything like this to happen, especially if it's something like rent. Like, that's something, conversations, you go to court, like, you could do anything. Something like that is just, it hurts to see something like that, for real.
Tonight, a lone patrol car stood guard outside the home, protecting the crime scene. Neighbors say Mr. Daniel was quiet and hardworking and took good care of his home like everybody else.
Always be quiet around here. There's no, nothing going on. Always be a quiet neighborhood. You can walk any time of the night and you come in from, I don't know.
Police say Mr. Daniel, who is from Jamaica, has no criminal background and that police had not been called to his home for any reason. Neighbors say he has two daughters, one of whom recently graduated from St. John's University.
Craziness. Roscoe, Jonathan, what's going on, man? So Jonathan says, do you sell vodka? No, man. But listen, I encourage you. Go buy it. Go buy it. Go buy their brand. Go check it out. I encourage you to. I think they got it misconstrued on what my I wasn't trying to slander anyone. I don't understand even where they're coming up with that. But anyway, tell me what bothers you the most so I don't do it. Hey, there's cowards out there, and then there's real fucking cowards out there. But it's all good. You got to deal with them regardless. But we take the trash out once a week over here. Fuck them. Straight up. But anyway, let's get to the video. I hope you guys enjoy this one. It's really crazy story. So just pay close attention. And I'll see you after the video is done. Have a great episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx. And today I got Larry Rolla. What's up, Larry?
Hi, Bill. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, you're welcome here anytime. People really enjoy our conversations.
Well, it's before we start, there's one thing I want to clear up that I said during our last podcast, and if it's okay with you, I'll clear that up right now.
Yeah.
All right. During the last podcast, I mentioned that Tannenbaum, the guy that threw me out of Yonkers Raceway for no reason. I mentioned that at my father's funeral, I sent a couple of guys to find him, and that I would kill him. I just want people to know that I'm not a killer. I'm not that. But sometimes things happen, and even up to today, I feel what he did, and very few people understand it, because I get every week I get at least 2 or 3 phone calls and texts asking me, 2 wrongs don't make a right, and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to explain a little bit what happened, and maybe the people who could put themselves in my shoes, and above all, I want them to know that I said what I said, and I probably would have done what I said I was going to do, but I'm not a killer. Years ago, when I was a kid, I was 14, 15, and all I would do was walk around saying, I'll kill that motherfucker, I'll kill. And one day, an old friend of mine, an old wise guy, an old Marine guy, he come up to me and he said, Larry, he says, I watch you grow up. He says, and maybe I'm missing something, but how many guys have you killed so far? And I said, none. And he says, well, stop saying that you're going to kill him. Just stop saying that, because you sound like a jerk off. And I stopped saying that until this situation. Now, let me tell you what happened real quick. I was going 100% straight. I had a bad life. I was a bad kid all the way up until I met with Tommy Lucchese. He put me on the right track. I did everything 100% legit. He gave me money. I bought horses with that money. I raced at Roosevelt Raceway the first year I was in the business. I think it was in 63 or 64. And I did well. I believe I won 7 out of the first 8 races against the top guys in the country, and I was just an apprentice. I got a full-page write-up. All the top guys there gave me nothing but praise. I was so happy. I was doing good, and it was a complete reversal from the life and the things I did before. Then I went to Yonkers Raceway, and I got accused of doing something I didn't do, and something I would never do, because I would never break my word to Tommy Lucchese, who was Three Finger Brown, one of the founding members of Casa Nostra in Manhattan. I think all you people know that. So anyway, he accused me. The owner of the racetrack was Marty Tannenbaum. He accused me of doing something I did not do, stiffing a horse. I did not do it. I wasn't guilty of it, and I would never do it, especially at that time where...
What's stiffing a horse? You want to tell the people what that means?
Stiffing a horse means I didn't try to win. I just held them back.
Okay.
And that was not the case. I was locked in. I had no place to go, no room to go. It was just like driving a car around a racetrack. If there's cars surrounding you, you have nowhere to go. And that's what happened. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, you get boxed in, kind of.
I got boxed in, right? Exactly. Yeah. I got boxed in. So I found all of this out later. He found, and everything I'm telling you is documented. And even years later, it was in all the newspapers. Pertaining what a bad guy he was. He was an extremely wealthy guy, him and his brothers, with major political connections in the Democratic Party, with all his wheeling and dealing and charges against him of defrauding the public and everything else. Because of his connections, he was still able to keep the racetrack. And he was partners with a big bettor at the track called Morty Finder. And I learned all of this from Morty Finder because more than 10, 15 years later, Morty Finder became a big owner of mine. And we became friends. And then he told me this story, which I had no idea. So anyway, they bet on my horse that night, and naturally I got beat, and he threw me out of the racetrack. Now, when he threw me out of the racetrack, I had nowhere to go. And a series of events happened. What people don't understand is that sometimes people like Tannenbaum say things that cause, it's like cause and effect. They say things, and then everything you say, it has an effect. And this effect caused me to go out of town in all the small racetracks and basically starved to death because the horses that I bought with Tommy Lucchese's money, they were too good to race at these racetracks, so they had no races for them. So all I was doing basically was stabling them there. And what happened, I'll have to make this quick because it's too long of a story. So what happened was I wound up getting myself in a little trouble because of one of Whitey Bulger's guys that came to me and wanted to help me when I got to Lincoln Downs. Because of that situation and relationship, I got myself in a lot of trouble. And I started betting sports. I got it. It became such an addiction that it basically destroyed my life at that point. And I started fixing races. And the money I was winning fixing races, I was losing betting sports. And one day, and during this time, my father, who completely idolized me, my father stayed with me from every, no matter where I was in the country. He would show up after 1 or 2 days a week and bring me his whole pay so I could eat. And that's how my father was. When my mother was trying to put me on the right track and beating me, my father was the one that stepped in just before she killed me.
Just before the final blow, right?
It was, and that was my father, and he idolized me. When at Roosevelt Raceway, when I was put on that pedestal and doing really good, my father and my mother were the proudest parents in the whole world. They took a kid that was doomed for nothing but bad, and turned into a real good kid with write-ups, my pictures in the paper, everybody talking good about me. So anyway,
let me ask you this, Larry: Did Lucchese find out about this situation? And if he did, what did he say about it?
Well, Lucchese, the reason I got stalls at Roosevelt when I first got my license was because I applied for stalls at Roosevelt Raceway, which at the time was the biggest racetrack in the country, that Roosevelt and Yonkers. And all the best drivers and trainers and horses in the world were at them tracks. So when I applied for stalls, they denied me because I was basically an apprentice and they didn't know who I was and stalls were limited.
Yeah.
So I called up my mother. I says, Ma, I took Tommy's money and they won't give me stalls. And the bottom line was he made a phone call and I got my stalls. Now, the reason I got the stalls was because the Roosevelt Raceway was owned by Morton Levy. Morton Levy was the attorney for Frank Costello and all the mob guys. So that was not a problem. But when this situation happened in Yonkers, I called up my mother and I says, Ma, they threw me out of the racetrack and I swear I didn't do anything wrong. And she says, well, I can't ask Tommy to help. He's in the hospital with a malignant brain tumor, of which he died from about a year later. So I couldn't bother him, which sent me to all these smaller racetracks. And after 3-4 years of eating pigeons and bran mashes and grass and everything else and losing about 40 pounds, I got to meet Tony Shula, and then I'll pick it up from where. All right, so now I develop a terrible gambling habit because of Shula, but because of Shula, I start fixing races because that's what they did. He was with Whitey Bulger. They controlled all the New England tracks, and this was the first time they had harness racing at Lincoln Downs, and he didn't know anybody, so they came to me because of my Italian last name. So through Tony Schuler, I developed a terrible gambling habit because he was fixing college games, and I just got involved in that whole thing. Make a long story short, by 1971, 72, I guess it was, I lost close to $1 million that I had made fixing races. I lost it all to bookmakers betting sports. At this time, simultaneously, my father came to the racetrack every chance he get, no matter where I was, and he was so proud of me and he just loved me to death, and he would just sit there and stare at me working. And so when I got thrown out of Yonkers and I went to all of these racetracks, well, I'll jump ahead to 72. The story gets too involved. So now in 72, 73, I'm really jammed up. I lost $1 million that I made fixing races to bookmakers betting sports. And I really got jammed up. And I went to my mother one day and I said, Mom, I'm in a lot of trouble. Can you help me out? Knowing that Tommy Lucchese had bought me mutual funds for me and her years back. And she said, I told her the trouble I was in, and it was a good shot I could probably get killed. And she said to me, I will sell everything I have to get you out of this trouble, but you have to tell your father that he has to go back to work. He can't be following you all around. I'm working 2-3 jobs now. I'm working 2 jobs and doing homework at home. And I need help. So I went to my father, and she did. She sold all the insurance policies. She had life insurance and for on my father and her, and cashed in all the mutual funds that Tommy Lucchese bought for me and her. But I had to tell my father to go back to work. I did. It broke his heart. I made up a lie saying that the racing commission didn't want and it broke his heart. And instead of going back to work, he was so heartbroken that he sat in the chair and for 7 days and 7 nights never left. And one morning when my brother found him, he was dead in the chair, and he died of a broken heart. And that, okay, some people say, well, I shouldn't have been gambling and that wouldn't have happened. But if Tannenbaum didn't throw me out, I probably would have been in the Hall of Fame. I would have went straight ahead. I was doing really well. Everybody wanted me to train and drive their horses. And what Tannenbaum, when he threw me out of the racetrack, the effect of that was everything that I went through, and my father dying at the age of 53 of a broken heart. Now, I don't care what anybody says, and a lot of people blaming me, but that's the story. Had Tannenbaum not barred me for absolutely no reason, he became the judge and jury without a hearing, without even calling me in and asking me. He just threw me out, destroyed my whole life, and killed my father. That's how I feel. And on top of it, he wasn't a good guy anyway. He was a bad guy. What he accused me of, that I was innocent of, he did 1,000 times worse. So anyway, I just want to clear that up. I'm not a killer. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not a wise guy. I just did what I did. But for that, and I probably would have killed him.
When you first met James Gandolfini,
yeah,
a lot of people are they love to hear stories about him. Can you tell me about the first time you met him?
Well, I had just gotten my license back because I was barred in '84. But anyway, I got my license back years and years later, 20 years later.
That was the whole situation with your mom, right? When you got the ticket, because she's like, "Hey, are you gonna bet with that boy?"
Yeah. So that was in '84, and years later, I got my license back. And I lived a couple of minutes from Meadowlands Racetrack, and they had a barn area at the time where you could stable your horses. So just to keep busy, I went into thoroughbred business for a short period of time. I get a call one day from James Gandolfini. It was probably because of Frankie Vincent, who was on that show, and he knew I trained horses. In fact, he wrote the foreword for my book.
Frank Vincent did?
Yeah, Frank Vincent. Yeah.
Rest in peace to Frank Vincent. He was a great
guy. This book here. This book is the one that's Frank's basically responsible. One of the guys responsible for me writing this book, and he wrote the foreword to it. And he was able to send it out to.
I got my copy around here somewhere.
Yeah,
my copy.
That's Frank Vincent.
Yeah.
And he wrote the forward to the book. Anyway,
now Sopranos was already out when you got that phone call, right? It was already.
Oh yeah. They already did many seasons. So I get a call. It's him, and it's Gandolfini, and he says to me, he says, Larry, he says, my father, he's up there in age, and I take him everywhere I go, and. But the last couple of weeks, he's failing rapidly. He don't want to eat. He won't talk no more. He won't, and it's I don't know what to do. So he says, but he loves horses. He says, would you mind if I brought him down there and maybe that would cheer him up or something. So I said, sure. So I says, bring him around noontime when all the horses are done training. And so the next day, a Porsche Cayenne pulls up with the whole side of the truck opens up, the electric tailgate, the side comes down, the lift, and here he comes out in a wheelchair, an old, he must have been 80 pounds and has a chin in his chest.
What was it, a Porsche following a minivan or something?
Yeah, Porsche, yeah, like an SUV. And then the whole side opened up into a ramp, electric ramp came down and he was able to wheel down.
Wow.
So I walk over to him and he had all handlers around him, whatever, and I go over to him and I says, hello, Mr. James Gandolfini. My name is Larry Rolla. No response. He just sat there with his chin in his chest. I says to the groom, I says, go bring Osmosis out. Osmosis was a 4-year-old horse that I had racing. It was a friend of mine owned him. And he didn't want to be a racehorse, but he was beautiful. And all he wanted to do was be petted and fed carrots. And he used to race. I raced him up. I would ship him every week up to Monticello to race, and he finished last every week. But my friend who owned him, his wife owned him, and she loved the horse, so that's why I raced him up there. He wasn't good enough to race at the Meadowlands anyway. But every week he finished last up there, but she saw him at the barn and feed him carrots, and it was her pet. But he was very gentle. So I says to the groom, bring him out here. So she brings the horse out here, and I get the horse and I put his head right into Gandolfini's lap. And all of a sudden, his hand starts coming up, and his head comes up, and he starts petting the horse. And within a minute, he has his two nice horsey. And I says, the horse seems to like you. And he says, what's his name? And I says, his name is Osmosis. Now he's starting, good Osmosis, good. I says, listen, I said, we have to train him, which was all a lie. I said, we have to train him today. Would you like to help me train him? And he says, yeah. So I tell the groom, I says, go harness him up. So he harnesses him up. He brings him back out, hook up to a little jog cart. And I says, okay, are you ready? And he says, yeah. Now he's sitting in his wheelchair. He's sitting erect. And so
yeah, totally different person, right?
I pick him up and I put him on the jog cart, and I get the lines, the reins, and I put them in his hands. And I says, I think we should put a helmet on you, huh? Just in case. And he says, okay. So now we got pictures of these. In fact, I think these pictures are right in my book, but they should be on my website. But I have a website too. But it's there's a lot of information on there, but none of the pictures. I never had time to put all the pictures. I got 1,000 pictures I want to put up there. He's sitting in the jog cart with the lines in his hands, and I have the groom walk up and down the shed row, up and down. And after about maybe 20 minutes, I says, okay, that's enough. We're all done. And now he's happy and everything. I pick him up. I put him back in a wheelchair. And now he says, when is he going to race? So I said, he's not into race yet. And the groom, not knowing, I didn't want to tell him. He says, yeah, he's into race Friday, I think, at Monticello. And I says, no. And the groom says, yes, he is. Here's the program. I didn't want to tell him because I know he would want to go watch the race, and the horse finishes last every week. So the groom keeps pushing him, and then he brings out the program, and sure enough, he's racing. I says, oh, yeah, that's right, he's racing. I says, but you can't watch him race. He says, no, I got to watch him race. I says, no, he's racing in Monticello. That's 100 miles from here. And he says, no, Jimmy, you take me over here to simulcasting. He already knew Meadowlands has simulcasting from Monticello. So I says, oh, God. So I said, this poor guy's going to be heartbroken. This horse finishes last every week. So that Friday, I get in my car and I go up to Monticello. Now, the leading driver at the track, Billy Parker, he's a Hall of Famer. And he used to drive this horse for me because he was a good friend. And I said, look, just take him. He's you don't want to be a racehorse. He finishes. Just don't abuse him. And he did. He just take him around a racetrack, finish last, and that would be it. So I drive up to Monticello, and I get a hold of Billy. And I said, Billy, you ever watch The Sopranos? He says, yeah, that's my favorite show. And I tell him the whole story. I says, so Jimmy's father he thinks he trained this horse, and he's watching this race. So the bottom line is you got to win. And Jimmy says, and Billy Parker says to me, what are you, fucking nuts? How's he gonna how the fuck are we gonna do this? I says, you figure it out. Choreograph the race, do whatever you have to do. This horse has to win. Now I go to the grandstand and I get a hold of the track photographer. And I says to the track photographer who takes the winner's circle pictures, I says, listen, if this horse is in contention from the head of the stretch to the wire, just keep snapping pictures of him. So sure enough, the race goes off. He wins. And I go to the photographer after that, and that's where you know that the winner circle pictures are all computerized because they print in on the pic, you know, whatever they want to print in on the computer.
Yeah.
And I made them put in on the top of the picture, which I will send you. I'll send you, and I think it's in the book. I'm not sure. I don't remember. A special thanks to James Gandolfini. Without his help, this win wouldn't be possible.
It's true, right?
And then it had all the other information on it, and I had that picture blown up to maybe I don't know, maybe a 20 by 30 thing, and put it in a big frame. It cost me about $500 to have it sealed because they like shrink wrap it so no air can get in there, in a beautiful frame. And I had bet $100 for him on the horse. So I took the ticket and I put it in the frame, and I had the frame wrapped, and I sent it to him. And I went to Florida, and I come back maybe 6 months later. I usually go from November till April, and I get a message saying that Gandolfini wants to see me. So I shoot over there. In the meantime, I found out that he had just recently died, the old man, and around his coffin where he was laid out, they had all the pictures that were taken at that time, all the pictures around. And in the Bada Bing Club, which is a club where I never watched The Sopranos, but they say there's his office in the Bada Bing Club. He had a thoroughbred picture up there. He took that down and put that picture up, and that was it. And so Gandolfini sent for me, and I went to him. I spent the day with him, and we took some pictures together. And he thanked me. He said that his father, he died of natural causes, but he began eating again. He was old, and that whole thing changed his whole life around. And he says that he asked me if it would be all right if he brought his son down. His son was, I think his son was 7 or 8, 9 years old at the time. So I said, sure, as soon as the horses ship back up this way, you'll bring your son. That's like Gandolfini's story. And he wound up dying. He wound up getting married and dying soon after. He had a big weight problem, always losing weight, gaining weight, losing.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this show. I hope you guys like that one. We got a lot of interviews I'm going to be dropping, tons of content. So just stay tuned, be patient, and I'm going to be dropping videos left and right. Crazy interviews with some people that you probably would be like, holy shit. But they're coming, and no one's going to stop it. You guys are all great. I want to talk about one more case before we leave. So, allegedly, in California, some police officers are in a little bit of trouble. So they have been working for the cartel, and they got caught. So I got the information for you guys. Check this shit out. Pretty insane that police officers would risk their job, their freedom, to make a little extra money with drugs. It's crazy, but hey, you fuck around and you're gonna find out. And that's just how it is. And let me see if I can get this video for you guys. Here we go.
We have new details tonight on the arrest of two people, one of them an Arvin police sergeant. After search warrants were served last week at 3 homes in Kern County, U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration officials say 2 warrants were served, one seeking the arrest of Francisco Javier Beltran on federal charges of conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine and fentanyl. The second warrant is related to a separate investigation by the Kern County Sheriff's Office, which resulted in the arrest of Arvin Police Sergeant Delia Reyes. According
All right, you see this lady? So this woman works for the police department, and they upped her status. You know how you can go from like being just a deputy to a sergeant to a captain and all this, so on and so forth. So she came from another department, I guess, and she was working for the cartel. Fucking crazy. Listen to the details of this.
to sheriff's officials, Beltran was taken into custody and found to be in possession of law enforcement equipment and a reported stolen firearm. Investigators say Reyes, an associate of Beltran's, was off duty when she was arrested and placed on paid administrative leave. Arvin Police Chief Alex Gazalpour.
So they're still getting paid, even though they got caught working for the cartel. They got caught with firearms from the police department and some other equipment. I think like a bulletproof vest or something like that. And it's great. They still get paid. They're on paid administrative leave. Like, you can't make this up.
Says Reyes was booked on charges including drug possession, being under the influence of a drug, and being under the influence of a drug while in possession of a gun.
You see,
officials
say, let me tell you guys something real quick. If you guys, anyone out there owns firearms, right? If you're a police officer or you own firearms, if you drink alcohol or you do drugs, you cannot be in possession of that firearm. I don't care if it's marijuana, alcohol, any type of drug. If you are under the influence of alcohol or drugs, it is illegal to possess a firearm. A lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, well, weed's legal, so I'll just get a dispensary card or something. No, you won't, because you can't have a dispensary card and a firearms permit at the same time, unless you slip through the cracks. But man, you guys got to know the laws if you're gonna fuck around and find out. Let's check out the rest of this video.
The 26-year-old Bakersfield police officer D'Angelo Sanchez shared a home with Reyes. Although not there when the warrant was served, officials say there was evidence Sanchez was in possession of steroids. The sheriff's office says charges are pending. The Bakersfield Police Department confirmed that Sanchez quit the force as deputies searched.
Wow, how ironic. They quit the force as they were searching the home. Hey, you know what? I quit. Maybe they were thinking, oh, this can go away before it starts. No, it don't work like that. It says more details released on Monday of the 2 arrests of people. One was an Avrion police sergeant. They're in the arrest warrant. U.S. Drug Enforcement Agencies. So what had happened was the police department isn't the one that was investigating this. It was the DEA. So the DEA came and started searching the houses, and they tied it all in together that they're working for law enforcement. So, I mean, it's crazy. It says they had 2 warrants were served. One seeking the arrest of Francisco Javier Beltran on federal charges of conspiracy to distribute methamphetamines and fentanyl and other related separate to the investigation. As a result, in an arrest of Avion police sergeant. That was that woman I've seen a picture of. Beltran was taken into custody and found to be possession of law enforcement equipment, a reported stolen firearm. Now, how did he get that firearm? He didn't just find it, and he's involved with these police officers. According to the sheriff official, who's due in federal court in Fresno on Thursday, which is today, during the course of the investigation, according to the complaint filed against Beltran, investigators seized 5 pounds of meth, 1 kilogram of heroin, 1,400 counterfeit hydrocodone pills containing fentanyl. Reyes, an associate of Beltran, was off duty when she was arrested and put on paid administrative leave. Officials said she was booked on suspicion of the offense, including drug possession, being under the influence of drugs and alcohol while possession of a firearm. So they're not having a good day, and I believe they're seeing the judge right now. But hey, you want to play the game, you got to run it to the end. But if you guys like this content, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And there's tons of content on the way. If you guys haven't seen the Dan Black interview, it's up now. Part 1 is up now. It's a 6-part series, so it gets really intricate. He tells on how he, some of his techniques on coaching Nick and Nate Diaz. I'm a huge fan of UFC and MMA, and it's going to get better. And I did a great interview yesterday. Shout out to the King of Connecticut. Really, really great interview. And that one will be dropping soon too. So check out this clip, and I'll see you guys later. If you guys want to donate to the show, every single dollar goes right back in to this show, and I help the community. Even $1, it helps. It goes a long way. So Cash App, Bill Staxx 2021, or you can hit up my Venmo, PayPal, Super Stickers, Super Chats. There's all kinds of different ways you can donate, and I appreciate you. We're going to do something really good for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. Hope you guys all have a great day. It's beautiful outside. Go enjoy the day. And remember, if you don't like this show, start your own podcast. And don't be a what? Don't be a bitch, bitch.